Hi, I'm Gregory Poilasne, the CEO and the co-founder of Nuvve Holding Corporation. Welcome today, and I would like to share with you more about Nuvve. Our global footprint today, we're headquartered in San Diego, and we have offices in Delaware, but also in Denmark, in London, and now an office that we are setting up also in Japan. We have about 45 employees. We have a 25-year experience around vehicle-to-grid technology, R&D, and deployment. And today we have more than 30 megawatt under management across the world. In Denmark, we have been running commercial operation for more than 8 years. What is vehicle-to-grid? Let me give you a little bit of detail. The vehicle-to-grid has two concepts. The number one is the ability of not just charging the vehicle, but also discharging the energy that's inside the battery, right? We love our car, we paid a lot of money for them, but we leave them parked all the time. And therefore, when you have an EV, you have a big battery inside that vehicle, and that battery is doing nothing most of the time. So the ability of not just charging, but discharging by providing a little bit of power electronics, transform your vehicles into an energy storage on wheels. The second step of vehicle-to-grid is the ability of having a platform, a software that is aggregating many of those vehicles, make them look like a big battery, and synchronize the charge and discharge sequence of those vehicles based on the needs from the grid. This is what we call the virtual power plant capabilities. With the Nuvve platform, we have the ability to do those two things, discharging the vehicle, but also aggregating them and make them look like a big battery. This availability, this platform allows us to transform the electric vehicle from a highly unreliable resource into a reliable, dispatchable, monetizable asset. Meaning we're able to control the charging and discharging sequences of the vehicles based on the need from the grid, leveraging this bidirectional capability, and we are able to synchronize them with the needs from the grid, which allows us to increase the amount of renewable, for example, because renewable are volatile in the way they are generating energy. The ability of charging, discharging the vehicle based on renewable generation allows us to integrate the electric vehicles into the system. This, by providing those grid services, it allows us to generate some revenue. By generating revenue while the vehicle is parked and sharing a big piece of that revenue with the vehicle owner, we're able to reduce the cost of ownership of those vehicles. This will allow us to further increase the amount of electric vehicles on the road because electric vehicles tend to be more expensive up front. Two things that we have to guarantee. Number one is the fact that your vehicle is the number one priority for your vehicle is for somebody to drive it at some point. And therefore, we need to make sure that you have the right state of charge in your vehicle when you need it. That's the number one guarantee. The second one, there's a battery inside that vehicle. That battery is not ours. And therefore, we need to make sure that while we are charging and discharging the vehicle, we are not damaging the battery. Our platform is very aware of the battery inside the vehicle and is very much protecting that battery. Nuvve starting to do deployments in Denmark more than 8 years ago. Before that, there were some initial deployments in Delaware where the technology was validated. But about 8 years ago, we started to deploy. 9 years ago, nearly, we deployed in Denmark. And here on this picture, you can see pictures of different deployment that we have in Denmark, those vehicles with the snow on them, for example. And on the bottom right, Frederiksberg, Denmark was the first customer actually that we started to do commercial operation with in September 6, 2016. In the US, we have been very focused on school buses, those yellow buses that you can see, they're Torrance or El Cajon. The very interesting piece with electric school buses is that they are parked most of the time, 97% of the time, and therefore they can be here when we need them, while they're also providing clean transportation for the kids. We've also been doing deployment in Japan. As you can see, Nagoya, Japan here, that was with Toyota Tsusho, and those were early demonstration of vehicle-to-grid technology here in Japan. In Denmark, as I said, with nearly 9 years of operation, using vehicles such as Nissan Leaf and ENV200. Those are Chalimo-based vehicles. Each of these vehicles over the last 9 years I've generated about $2,000 or more than $2,000 per vehicle per year. That's a very significant total cost of ownership reduction of those vehicles. It's about 40% total cost of ownership reduction. Now, on the right side here, you can see different illustrations. The revenue fluctuates from year to year, depending on different aspects of those energy markets. But on average, it's more than $2,000 per vehicle per year that have been generated over the nearly 9 years. In the US, we have been using the school buses, and there are 480,000 school buses in the US. Those school buses are carrying 24 million kids every day. It's it's the largest transportation system in the United States. Those electric school buses, when they become electric, we connect them to a 60 kilowatt charging station, usually, sometimes 125 kilowatt, but very often 60 kilowatt. When you do those 480,000 buses connected to a 60 kilowatt charging station, that's 29 gigawatt, a very large capacity in order to provide grid services. To give you an idea, for example, the California peak consumption is 52 gigawatts, so 29 is more than half of California. Those buses, they can generate between $120 to $240 per kilowatt year. That's between $3.5 billion to $6.9 billion of market, right? So it's a very significant value that those school buses can provide. And this is obviously provided with our technology and our IP. The very interesting thing about the school buses is they tend to be parked on large parking lots. And now when you look at a parking lot, all those electric school buses parked together, they really become a power plant. It's a virtual power plant capability, but combine all those school buses, they become a power plant. To give you an idea, when you have 200 school buses connected to a 125 kilowatt charging station, that's 25 megawatts. That's about 50% of the consumption of 10,000 houses. So those 200 buses can solve very significant power capacity issue for a very large number of houses. And they are very critical in the deployment. This is an example of the first vehicle-to-grid hubs that Nuvve is deploying right now in Fresno, California. These hubs, as you can see here on this mock-up, is composed of local generation, solar, that you can see on the field on the left side, as well as carports, you can see on the right side, for about 2.5 megawatt peaks. We are also deploying 1.6 megawatt hour of batteries, 37 V2G charging stations, and 20 V1G charging stations, meaning V1G, they are not bidirectional, but we can still control the charge rate. They are also combined with a kitchen, which is where you have the red dot over there. That kitchens have fridges, freezers, oven, all electric. They make about 7,000 meals every day in that kitchen. So the combination of the solar, the stationary storage, and the V2G allows to first reduce the cost of energy and make the cost of energy as low as possible for that site. But also providing clean transportation for special need kids in the Fresno County. Those white buses that you can see on the picture here are providing transportation for those kids with special needs. As they become electric, it's clean transportation. But this is a perfect example how V2G can solve key energy issues and also keep the cost of energy equitable. In Japan, Nuvve has been participating across a variety of markets with vehicles in terms of demonstration, but also through stationary storage. And we've been working with Chubu Electric in providing some grid services, combining batteries that have been deployed across different areas in the Chubu Electric vicinity. This was our first way to access the market. Now we want to leverage this experience and this expertise that we have done over the years and bring it with our own capabilities in terms of business development and commercial operational aspects across all the utilities in Japan, not just Chubu. Through the deployment that we are doing in Japan today, we are using a new business model, I would say, which is a semi-franchise business model where we are setting up an entity here in Japan, Nuvve Japan, but we are also welcoming potential local investors to invest into this entity so that not only we share the benefits of the deployment and what we are, the capability of our platform with the local partners, but we are also allowing those partners to see some financial returns on their investment. This, we believe, will allow us to accelerate the deployment, make us a very important player in this space in Japan, but also potentially on neighboring countries such as South Korea and potential expansion across Southeast Asia as well. we are able to deploy stationary storage at the end of the distribution system in order to create what we call the energy cloud. The energy cloud is the most efficient way to integrate further and further electric system into the grid without making the cost of energy prohibitive. This energy cloud is basically storing energy either at the end of the distribution system or at the substation level. By storing the energy at those two levels, you're avoiding the energy flooding up and down the system, and therefore you are always making the highest use of the existing infrastructure, keeping the cost of energy low because you don't have to scale up the electric system in order to put more electric vehicles or to increase the load on the system. You store the energy where it's being generated and you use it where it's being generated or where it's being stored, so that then you can offer the best cost, which we think is essential today. Keeping the cost of energy equitable while we are going through this transformation is very important. Thank you very much, and we're looking forward to sharing more with you about our progress in the future.